Welcome back to the Home Recording Show. This is episode 315. I'm John Tidey, and today we've got
Eric Ballew, and I'm also Ryan Canestro. You didn't give me a chance to say me, but you guys all know me. We're here at Cannibal Industries, and this is a giant playground for all things audio. So, Eric, tell us a little bit about what you do here.
My name is Eric Ballew, and I've got a small boutique shop here that I call Cannibal Industries, and I specialize in fabricating location sound equipment. So high-end audio equipment mobility is what we do. The methodologies that I use in that endeavor are highly inspired from the industrial automation world and always striving towards achieving uncompromising dependability with everything that's built here. That's on the side. On the other part of the life of Eric Ballew, I'm a production sound mixer, and I work on television shows and movies and some commercials from time to time.
Yeah, so Eric and I work together in movie world, but then I found out that he does all of this stuff too. And we're in one of three of his shops, and we just left the machine shop, and I'll shoot some B-roll today. We'll get some images of all this, but currently Eric's building my next audio cart, and we've gone to levels that I didn't even know existed in building and construction. And John, you and I have talked about 80-20 material before, right, on the show?
80-20?
The T-slot material.
So it's extruded aluminum T-slot material.
I don't know about that. I thought you meant like 80-20 principle of efficiency.
Well, we should definitely talk about that too. But today...
Okay, but that's a material.
Yeah, slotted aluminum.
T-slot extruded aluminum is pretty common. I think it originally was, you can't quote me on this, but I think it was originally used heavily for like building cubicle walls and office spaces and stuff, but they make all kinds of little accessories. But it's a T-slot material that can be very quickly assembled, a lot of over-the-shelf parts. It's a pretty easy material to work with. And then with all the accessories, you know, adding arms and junctions and hinges and side panels and stuff like that are all pretty readily available. And you don't necessarily have to have like vertical milling centers and lathes and CNC machines to deal with it.
You can take a basic chop saw, cut the pieces, and then put them all together with brackets and drop-in parts and nuts and bolts. And a lot of the camper guys are using this material to build out their vans and full kitchens inside of vans and racks and obviously audio carts, which brings us back to here.
Yeah.
So normally you would buy that material, you'd chop it with a chop saw. You can just like a basic chop saw you get at Home Depot. You could put a metal blade on it, chop it, and then get brackets to put the corners together. And then you screw in on the outside, you drop in nuts and all that stuff. What Eric did was he took the easiest to use material on earth and made it extremely impossible to work with. We drilled through and tapped everything, so we're not using any hardware. It's all secured piece to piece. He has a CNC machine. We put all of the pieces on there, custom cut them, designed it all on the computer.
Okay, so the benefit of that is that off-the-shelf material is very strong.
It's
but I would guess
material.
that when it's assembled normally, there's a bit of flex, a little wiggle, and things can probably get shocked loose.
Well, it's the tolerances, but can you see that? I'll send you photos. But yeah, we designed the whole thing in the computer to about, a thousandth of an inch tolerance?
10,000th of an inch.
10,000th of an inch. And we have now built it to that spec of 10,000ths of an inch. When a chop saw in your garage, you're probably not going to hit those tolerances.
Yeah. So like with what I call is intermediates, where you've got two of these metal bodies coming together. You know, there's an intermediate bracket holding those together. The way that I go about it is just eliminating that intermediate bracket, you know, which can get loose and everything. And literally the pieces are actually bolted directly to each other with no intermediate. When you're using intermediates, you can get away with having a little bit of slop, you know, in a chop saw. And like some people will say like, well, 1/16 of an inch is a tight tolerance, or, you know, 1/32 is like really, really getting tight. Well, for me, when I look at 1/16 of an inch, that's 0.0625. On my machine, it will move in 10,000th of an inch increments. Well, I mean, that's 6 1/4 full turns of the dial, you know, and to like put the a 10,000th of an inch tolerance into perspective, if I were to take a dollar bill and I put a caliper on it and measured it, you're going to get a reading of 0.0043. Well, on a CNC machine that has operational movement tolerances of 0.0001, if I were to take that dollar bill and glue it down to the surface of that table, I could come through and I could shave the surface of that dollar bill 42 times before I actually went through it. So,
Very impressive.
yeah. And so like when you take all these pieces, if you have an intermediate, holding these together, you can have some slop this direction, but when each piece is cut perfectly square, which the machine will do, then you end up with something that is incredibly stout and very, very rigid. And
for my audio cart, I demand perfection.
Yeah. So,
and it's so beautifully over the top. Like it's so wildly unnecessary for what we're doing. But when we put these pieces together in the dry assembly, they fit so perfectly. Like everything just was completely straight, completely even, rock solid with just the one screw in it. And it held his weight just on top of it with one screw per
yeah,
connection.
not even fully tightened up, not even bringing the screws up to full torque. Yeah, and it was, I'm 6'2", 6'3", depending on which 7-Eleven I'm running out of. I never get a good look because of the pantyhose over my head, but I'm not a very small fella, but but they definitely hold weight. So like going to these like really high tolerances, especially with screw holes, like a lot of people don't really realize, like, in our industry, at least in film production, a 1/4-20 screw is like a really common screw. And so if you take that screw and you measure the outside diameter of that, you're going to read a 0.250. Typically when I drill a hole for a 1/4-20 screw, if I know that I'm not going to paint the thing, then I'm going to usually drill that hole at like a 0.255, which is just basically, you could not take like a receipt and wrap it around the screw and get it through the hole. It's pretty tight. On these carts, any of our clearance holes, I milled those out to 265. So when we throw the powder coat on there, the powder coat, when they charge these carts up, powder coat goes on. It's a static cling process, and the powder is they bring it out to 100,000 volts, and the cart is hanging from a metal grid and it's grounded, so the powder clings to it. But they are really consistent about getting that to be about 5/1000ths of an inch. So if I drill a hole at 0.265, you throw on 5/1000ths of powder coat, you end up at a 0.255.
So all the measurements were compensated for, even the
thickness of the powder coat.
Yeah. Which, way over the top, and we're probably getting way further into the weeds technically.
Sorry.
Yeah,
but
a little bit. But
all right.
It's really interesting how, like, taking this in the computer, designing it, compensating for all these things. I've learned so much in this process. It's been really fascinating, but that's what separates the buying something off the shelf or building it yourself in the garage versus bringing it to a professional to take it to that next level. And we're building 2 carts that are identical, or actually 3, for another sound mixer as well. He's going to have one, I'm going to have one, and another very well-known sound mixer is going to have one. And there's not going to be anything like it.
So Eric, where did you get started with this? So you were a sound mixer first, right?
Yeah. So I've been recording sound since 1987. That's when my dad first gave me a tape recorder, and he used to save his computer programs on audio cassette tapes. This is back in the Tandy TRS-80 days. So recording sound has been my life's work. I moved out to Los Angeles in 2010. I didn't have that many contacts here. But
was that for your music career?
No. Another episode. We'll talk about that. So I didn't have that many contacts in the sound world here, but I did grow up in a construction household. So reading blueprints and working with my hands and carpentry and like metal studs for buildings is something that I grew up in that. And
we're about the same age where we were into computers and we were into building things, fixing things, making things.
Yep.
And computers had nothing to do with music then. It was, not even barely, you were starting to get some digital instruments, but those separate interests all kind of merged together.
Yeah. I've got an uncle who is a stunt rigger, and he's got multiple tourist stunt awards, and he drops people off of buildings. He did Spider-Man and Rambo and Pearl Harbor and Transformers and Hunger Games, and he's got semi-trailers full of equipment for dropping people off of buildings and all that stuff, and a lot of his equipment that he uses for that is all custom made. And he introduced me to a machinist here in Santa Clarita named Tony Eschenbacher, and I've just been slowly learning this stuff. But for many years, between the few little sound jobs that I was getting here, I was dealing with stunt rigging equipment, either organizing it, putting it together, assembling it, helping design it, but just really in depth with the stunt community for many years there. And then I want to say about 2016, 2017, I decided to just go public with making sound carts for other people. And I'm just using the exact same vendors and pretty much the exact same processes that I learned from fabricating stunt rigging equipment and applying those to sound carts.
At some point, you had built yourself something.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A few something.
A few of them.
Okay, so what's the difference between the stunt rigging equipment and or not equipment, but manufacturing process versus what you're doing now?
So, like, one of the things that my uncle is known for are these winches that are for dropping people off of buildings. And, these are very powerful electric motors, and they've got motor controllers on there and software and stuff. But the basics of that thing are pretty much the same. To this day, on a very large cart, I will start off with a very thick aluminum base that the wheels are bolted directly into, and then the frame bolts to that. So the basic skeleton of that thing, I'm applying to into sound carts
And building from the bottom up, the foundation up.
Literally from the bottom up.
Because the cart I currently have now has a single bolt going down for the front casters, and one of them is just completely bent. And we bent it back and tightened it down again, and it's like it just flops in the breeze when you push the thing. And you see that a lot in major manufacturers. Some of their building that's just really poorly built with the casters in front. So starting from the ground up is huge. And having those tolerances off at all on the wheels, they will grab and pinch and not roll smoothly. And you'd be surprised how small that tolerance could be before the wheels just don't work properly.
And it makes a difference for drawer pulls and everything else.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, you take a utility cart, which has all of our accessories and stuff that we use on a film set. Well, these things can get pretty heavy, 200-300 pounds. You got smart wheels on one side, but usually you have straight parallel, locked wheels in the back. Well, something is, taking those two back wheels and having them out of alignment by like 1/8 of an inch. So not only are you pushing the weight of that cart, you're also fighting,
pushing against those wheels.
The friction, of the rubber, and you're working on a TV show and you've got some push where, we're on like stage 6 and we, and halfway through the day, and we've got to go uphill up to like stage 10, it'll wear you out,
Yeah.
So
Probably dragging them over rocks and everything. And then
Sure.
there's any wiggle that's just going to keep getting worse and worse. And
I just finished a show with a location where we were literally pushing up a hill. And I just had that one wheel just flapping all the time. It was the worst. It was because of that. I'm like, I cannot work like this anymore. I'm going to go talk to Eric. I'm going to make something this job's hard enough as it is. I do not need this cart fighting me up a hill.
Yeah. We need a meme of somebody pushing a boulder up a hill. Imagine that, but take the boulder away and make it a
sound cart,
flimsy sound cart.
Yeah. The thing is we work in a really competitive industry, and there's a lot of guys that are not working, and these production companies, like, there is no loyalty with producers hiring on sound crews. It's almost like they're constantly looking for reasons to get rid of you. Almost, it's a very it's a subtle thing, but it is certainly there.
It does happen.
And, you're moving your equipment from one spot to another, and like a wheel falls off and you can't get your equipment there. And and it's like you're struggling to get the thing there. Well, they've got the shot up and they're lit, and they've already had second team come through, and actors are coming on set, and you're just now arriving, just trying to, even capture the thing. Well, you get like an entire scene that's recorded badly. That can be job ending.
Yeah. And that applies across everything. If your equipment isn't up to snuff, like if you have something missing, if you have clients waiting, if you're in the recording studio and you have a power supply break or something that should be maintained, or you should have bought something good in the first place to make sure that never happens, that's the kind of thing you lose clients over.
Yeah.
And we're taking it all the way back to, the wheels that you're using to push your stuff around.
Yeah. Probably one of the main things that I learned from working for stage 1 stunts is this stuff has to work.
Zero failure.
There is no second chance. It just has to work. So, it's something as simple as a wheel. Well, will 4 quarter 20 screws hold the wheel on? Yes. Okay. Is it possible for me to go to a 5/16/18 screw or go to a 3/8/16? Well, if there's a way for me to go to a 3/8/16, which is a drastically larger screw, I'm going to figure out how to do it because it has to work. There is not a second chance. It has to work. So uncompromising dependability.
Well, there was just that piece I saw in the machine shop where you beautifully machined this whole piece of aluminum and it had connections down and it looked amazing. But once he got done with it, he took so much aluminum out of it to make it work that it started to bow. And even though it looked amazing and it would probably work, that was scrapped.
Yep, trash.
And there was how many hours you put into that?
Oh, probably 2 hours in the machine, then building the fixture plate, which was, to hold an L-shaped thing like that. Give me a look. How do you hold on to that, in a vise, A couple hours in making the
and material
the plate,
cost.
then the material, and then bolting it all up, sending the program to the machine, having it running it. Probably about a day and a half. And, I pull it out, start bending it. I'm like,
moving on.
Trash.
Live and learn. Recycle.
Because 20 cents a pound, that's what it's worth for the recycling. Yeah.
So back to designing something new.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're basically building prototypes here. So Eric and I have been working together a lot on the computer design, thinking through ideas. This doesn't work because of this. We've tried that. What about this? And we're using our combined experience to try to figure out all of the little gremlins. And we spent weeks in design and conversations and me coming to the shop. It's a 45-minute drive, and I've been here several times just to sit and just look at things. And we both just kind of sit and stare at it, go, what if we did that?
Yeah.
What if we move that to there? Oh, then that would block this, and then that wouldn't work with that. And there's several things we've already found that we're like, how did we not think of that? Building something from the ground up, you forget how many details there are from the ground up through. I mean, we're building a simple box on wheels. And it's a very complicated process.
The best box on wheels.
The best box on wheels ever. And this will be probably one of the best audio carts you will see in the movie industry in Los Angeles. I haven't seen anything like it. And the cart behind us, it's got titanium sides.
Yeah.
Literally titanium.
Yeah, it's a grade 5, 6 ALV4 titanium on the sides of this one.
Like what would be on an airplane.
Yeah. In fact, the laser etching on this material actually said platform F-18.
Yeah. So what would have been on an F-18 is on Eric's cart.
So this is like higher budget than like what NASA would have for stuff.
Ballpark.
Because NASA generally has to work with really high specs, but also like the lowest bid on everything. So at lowest price. Just because.
Well, basically you can walk into any place and buy an audio cart of similar dimensions for like $2,000. To come to Eric and to get through the process, you're looking more like 10 grand. Right. So it is a little pricier.
Yeah.
But bespoke stuff always is.
Yeah.
Yep. Tying in with the should be on an airplane thing. This guy did some audio work on Top Gun and had to capture audio on an aircraft carrier. So that's a different topic we can get into right now about trying to capture audio in the least hospitable environment.
Yeah.
That's got to be a pretty high noise floor, ambient level there. What is that?
But that's not even the worst of it.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, put it like this. One of the jokes we used to say was like there's the right way, the wrong way, and the Navy way. I was in the Navy 2001 and 2005, and I spent years on aircraft carriers. So yes, it is a very loud environment. But from recording sound, that standpoint, that is actually the least of your problems.
Well, let's talk about capturing sound in that environment first before you move on to the more problematic issue.
Okay.
All right. What's the easy part?
So how did you capture audio in that environment on an aircraft carrier to get usable dialogue?
Are we talking within or like on the deck?
On the deck.
Throughout the entire ship. They're throughout the ship. So, that was all wireless microphones. I mean, I had shotgun mics there. The shotguns were not usable for a couple of reasons. So the carrier, when it's doing flight operations, it's not just sitting still in the water. There's a constant headwind on you. They're usually moving that ship at about 20 knots or so. So you got this non-stop headwind. So we have body mics on everybody. But what really makes it difficult is the radars. And I don't know exactly how many there are, but there's at least 8 or 9 different types of radar that are point blank range from you that are emitting a incredible amount of electromagnetic interference. Enough so that like the batteries that they were using on the cameras would scram, and they were like wrapping black foil around the batteries. The Dinicky timecode slates had to be constantly rejammed because
knock the timecode.
The timecode, like literally the screen of the thing would start just like reading off like Klingon language, some kind of like Klingon IKEA instructions would start coming across on the screen.
Eric didn't even have to use birth control for a month after that.
Yeah, probably won't ever have to ever again. Out of all of the environments that I've ever been in, by far the flight deck of an aircraft carrier was the most hostile that I've ever dealt with. So you've got this unrelenting wind. The Navy is not going to stop operations.
Right.
It's
hey guys, could you hold on for a second?
Yeah,
we got to get this shot real quick.
We're doing a shot with Tom Cruise and one of the other characters in that movie. And all of a sudden they just, there's a Seahawk helicopter. They just start firing it up and there's no turning it off, you know.
Holding for helicopter.
Yeah, no. It's the Navy's just going to do what they got to do.
So yeah, you've got the wind, you've got the loud, and then you've got every time that radar comes around, it's like weird noises and knocking stuff off of frequencies.
Yeah. There's so much static electricity that is built up from these things, and I think it's the early missile detection radar. And this thing looks like this piece of plywood almost. But like a grid thing. But every time it's on axis with the microphone, the actual elements themselves are like supercharged with electrons. And it's not static in the sense of like, you're off the frequency of an FM radio station. It's just something totally different that I've not really heard. It's just like sizzling electrons. I really don't have any other.
Like you can hear it in the mic.
Oh yeah.
And then there's these
it's rhythmical, every time because it's spinning, zip, zip, zip.
Yeah. And I've been near Air Force bases and I hear like these weird like beeps and thumps really low and thump, 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 just coming through the wireless.
Yep. Yeah.
And there's not really any way to prepare for that.
No.
You've already got probably the best equipment you can get. And
well, you were the third person they brought in? Like, can you do this?
Yeah. Well, no, I was the second. So Mark Weingarten was the main mixer for that movie. And Mark is a legend, to say the least.
Top of the top.
I mean, yeah.
You don't get Top Gun if you're not a Top Gun.
I mean, he did Dunkirk. I think he did Avatar. I mean, we're talking massive, massive movies. They'd done some filming on the ships, and, they were just, the wireless that he had was just getting beat up. So he calls around to a couple different sound stores and ends up talking to a sales rep that I dealt with at True Audio, and he tells Mark, well, you might want to talk to Eric Ballew. He was in the Navy and he's a sound mixer, and maybe he knows something. So he calls me, we're chatting, and he started asking me what kind of equipment I had. I'm like, well, I run all Zaxcom wireless, and I've got Zaxcom recorders and DPA microphones. And he says, well, do you think you can handle this? And I'm like, absolutely, I can handle this. I had no fucking clue if I could handle it or not, but I'm not going to say no.
No. Top Gun, no, not interested.
Yeah. I grew up watching the original Top Gun movie. I had the Nintendo game. I had the bomber jacket. I had the sunglasses. I wanted to be Maverick. Yeah. And then later on, I go into the Navy and I'm in boot camp, and, they ask you like, what are the 3 things that you'd love to do? And I was like, I want to go to Japan. I want to be on an aircraft carrier, and I want to be with F-14 Tomcats. Miraculously, that actually did happen. I ended up in VF-154 in Atsugi, Japan, and we were, attached to the USS Kitty Hawk.
Should have aimed higher. Could have had anything you wanted.
Yeah, I should have. To me at the time was like the best.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
No, you got everything you asked for. You're like, I just got everything I asked for.
So, and then during this time, the Navy had begun decommissioning the F-14 Tomcats and, moved our squadron to an F-18 Super Hornet squadron. And I finished my enlistment in Lemoore, California. This was in 2005, so now it's 2018, I think. I'm having this phone call with Mark Weingarten. I loaded up as much equipment as I could into a couple of these Husky containers, and, truck comes and picks that stuff up. A few days later, I'm getting on a flyway in Van Nuys, and I'm riding down to San Diego, and, I've filled out all the security paperwork and all that stuff, and I see the carrier, and it's the Roosevelt, and I'm like, wow, look how big this thing is. And I start walking up the gangway, and I start getting nervous. I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing here? I've never worked on anything this big. And and the smell of the ship hit me. And, I started, getting really nervous. And the boom operator who was with me, I had never met him before until that day on the bus on the way down there. And he's like, this is happening. And I'm like, yeah, wait a second. This is my Navy. This is my fucking ship. I'm going to own this. And I did. And, and to go watch that in the theater. And for me, it was like the most perfect closing of a chapter, not that I'm ever going to quit doing sound. It's the only thing I know how to do. But I tell you, I mean, I watered up and I cried so many times. It's just probably one of the most emotional things that I've ever been through, professionally, to actually see this thing all the way through, and really, really proud of that.
And such a great movie.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
They did it right. Have you seen it, John?
I haven't. And
It's excellent.
they used a lot of the audio on set for the film.
Yeah.
And all of the flight shots are in flight. They're not green screen.
Fantastic. Yeah.
They had to do acting while flying.
Yeah.
Boom mics. What do you like for boom mics?
It depends on what I'm doing. Probably one of my favorites is going to be the Sheps CMIT 5U. I've got two of those. I've got some 416s. I just bought a Sanken CS3E. I got a CS M1. I own a couple of MKH 50s. I kind of got a weird love-hate with the MKH 50.
I need to get a 50 still.
It's an interesting microphone. Some people just swear by it and they'll use it everywhere. I personally think that it only really sounds good when a certain set of conditions are satisfied.
Yeah, if it's right here.
Yeah, the room has a lot to do with it.
I like the little Sheps.
Yeah, the not the 5U, but the mini cement. Yeah, that's a nice microphone.
So Sheps for indoors, 416 for outdoors.
That's for me.
Outdoors, I probably would go with the CS3E. That mic has just got such a sharp edge on it. It's maybe 15 degrees wide. You've got to be really on top of your cues.
You got to have a good boom operator.
Yeah, somebody that knows their cues and knows where the actors are going to move, because it's not forgiving.
Well, I guess that's a factor too. What boom op do you have with you?
Yeah.
What mic are you going to give them? Because if they can't hit that target, you got to give them something a little wider.
If it's a scene with like one or two people, I will boom that if it's on a scripted show. But anything more than that, I won't boom it. You've got a scene with 5-6 characters, and it's all scripted. I'm not the guy to do that job, because my mind just doesn't always think in that way.
You got to have a pro boom op.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A good boom op is worth their weight in gold.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question. Something I haven't thought about at all is the sound mixer responsible for the mics for the boom op, or does boom op always bring his own mic?
Oh, that's completely on the sound mixer.
Yep. The boom op sometimes brings their own pole, and they'll bring their own headphones. But everything, every choice, every all of it is up to the mixer, and the mixer provides.
Yep.
I've never thought of that at all. That's really interesting. All right, so how about headphones? What's the go-to?
Well, which ones are these? These are the Ultrasone Pro 580i. They're okay. I was using the Sennheiser. Is it Sennheiser MDR 7506? That's what he's wearing.
No, this is the
Sony. I wore those for a long time, and then I was on a show, and like the little wire, you turn your head there.
Yeah, it pinches all the time.
Well, I was on a show, and like that wire got, broke, and I lost the entire right side, and I was just like, King Kong's, or no, what's it? Who says smash?
Hulk.
I was just like, Hulk smash, and I ended up switching over to I don't know. I've got 3 different kinds, but I've typically keep coming back to these ones. I kind of like.
I don't like any headphones.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of the ones that like have really good isolation just sound absolutely terrible. Or if you're holding the boom, you can't put them on. Like Like the Sennheiser HD280 Pro, I hate how they sound. The ear pads, like when you got them over your neck, they face outward instead of sitting flat against your chest, and you can't put them on with one hand. So like the Sonys are probably better for that. Because they're a lot lighter weight, and you can probably hook them on with one hand a
Yeah.
little bit easier than or like, I mean, where do you even put down the pole if you've got to put your headphones on?
I just use the Sonys because they're relatively cheap. They're everywhere, and I know what they sound like.
Yeah.
Other than that, don't love them.
If I had to buy another set, I'd probably go with. I think I want to try Bear Dynamic. I mean, there's a lot of good headphones out there, but there's always the compromise of like, oh, I want to use these for outdoor field recording, and I want to use these for mixing and mastering, and like, there's no good one set for all that
No.
stuff.
And I want to simplify my life. I just don't have time for it. I don't like headphones, so these ones work. But yeah, the little wire pinchy thing that happens here, I don't know why that's the design. It's stupid.
Is
but
in-ear ever an option for boom ops?
I see
it
some boom
depends.
ops doing it.
Yeah, boom ops, because like what will happen is you're in a room and it's a tight room. The boom operator is moving around. You can actually hit the pole on the headphones. I've heard that a lot of times.
Yeah. But the in-ears also block out so much. So usually I'll send the boom op a feed of their mic. So even if they're in, they can just hold the mic in front of them. They can still hear because the mic's picking up what they would be hearing. But it can kind of seal you off. Whereas these ones, you can kind of just pop it off if you need to hear the room a little bit,
Yeah.
Do you want to see the most expensive headphones that I own?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. These are the HMD 27s from Sennheiser.
I got a pair of those.
Yeah.
That's what I use on my cart.
Yeah, there's like, I don't know, what is it, $600-700 pair of headphones?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But they do have a really good broadcast mic.
They do have a broadcast
So
mic.
you can use these for
I
broadcast.
hate the way they sound.
They're not good. No.
They sound like,
These sound way better than those.
yeah.
But these have a really good mic on them.
They're,
So
yeah.
when you talk to the boom op, it sounds wonderful.
Yeah. But other than that,
But these are for broadcast. What these are for is sports commentators. When you hear sports, it's these.
yeah.
And that's the
Right.
mic they're talking through.
So it's like just kind of speech. It's not for full range.
Yeah, it's reference and then for speech. So it's a broadcast microphone that happens to have headphones. So we use them on our carts because we do have to talk to the boom ops or do a voice slate. So one button talks to the slate, so you can say the scene name. One button talks to boom op 1. One button talks to boom op 2. And then you can have some other feeds. But it's just for us to say, hey, get the boom in tighter here, and scene 27, take 3.
Yeah. Or just talk shit about other people that are on.
Mostly it's that.
Yeah,
I try
a
to
lot
do
of
most.
that.
All right. So what's in your pocket? Pocket knife, Leatherman, wallet in the front or in the back? What's the routine?
Always carry the Gerber blade. Wallet in front.
Okay. I keep a vape on me because I got demons in me that live on smoke, and if I don't give it to them, they come out looking for it.
All right. Wallet in the front right pocket or back right pocket? What it seems that most
right.
people are back.
Back right.
I'm
for me.
front right.
I know it's
on
more
the left.
secure, and I cannot get used to it.
I just don't like to sit on it.
I'm afraid of getting pickpocketed, but it's more comfortable in the back pocket when I'm walking.
Oh, we live in the safety of Los Angeles. We're good.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, I'm telling you.
And
Not
no
that
one's
many
gonna
people around,
pickpocket this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no multi-tool or pocket knife or anything.
Not in my pocket now.
Yeah, we have, when we're on set, we have our follow cart and we have our cart. So I have some things in the drawer of my cart, and then I have a full follow cart,
Full toolbox.
full toolbox, full accessories, everything there, plus a couple Pelican cases. So I try to stay as light for things on me as possible. And I've even tied the walkie-talkie into my audio system so I can hear it in my headphones. And then when I talk, it goes out to my guys and they could talk back to me on walkie, but I talk to them on the comms.
Are there any principles that you learned in the Navy that you're still applying to your daily life or on set?
Yeah. It's probably just a very refined sense of attention to detail. You go onto a show that's, let's say we've got 6, 7, 8 actors, and then you've got like the Phonak in earpieces. They might have music cues, so the attention to detail would be The day before, I am pre-planning. Yeah, the prep day. If I can get a hold of the script the day before, I'm going through that entire script and I'm looking for every single thing that could possibly be a problem. Do I have enough of the little ear batteries that go into the Phonax? Do I have the proper cabling to get from this, recorder into the, Comtech transmitter? Do
And
I
a
have
backup.
a backup and a
Plan B.
plan B? Where are the music cues coming from? Is this going to be something that somebody's going to text me, through a text message, and I need
Last minute change.
Yeah, last minute change, and I need to figure out how am I going to get this, MP3 that's like sent to me on an iPhone text message. How am I going to get that off the text message into the computer and either into Reaper or Pro Tools? What methodologies do I have to do that? Like having like a radio Bluetooth thing where I can Bluetooth it from the phone. If all else fails and I don't have cellular service, I can at least Bluetooth it off of the phone into the computer. But it's just this constant attention to detail. No stone left unturned.
Expect the unexpected.
Exactly.
I was just on a job 2 days ago. I had a full prep day on Thursday or Friday, and then the shoot day was Tuesday. Brought in everything, set it up, did the test, did the live stream. Cool. Got it down. It's 2 channels of audio, 2 microphones, to a live stream. We go live. Come back the day of. We do a full rehearsal with talent, same exact setup. Then we have 1 hour before we go live. It went from 2 channels of audio to 7. Now they want playback music underneath, stereo. They want the makeup people to all be mic'd. It turned into a whole thing. And with a prep day, with rehearsal, completely changed with an hour before we're live. And because I had everything there, backups, plan B, more lavs than I ever needed because I had backups in case one failed. Now I'm using all of them that I brought. Even had a headset for the girl that was holding a mic for the producer, and then put the music on my laptop, Dante into the mixer, and then Dante to the guy running the stream. Everything worked out fine. I just click, change that, boom. I was done in 10 minutes.
Things will bite you that you would just not expect to bite you. I was actually on this cart, and this one has industrial PC built into it, and I've got 4 or 5 PCs. They all have Dante virtual sound card on them, and and I've got like this thing's got an incredible amount of Dante handling capabilities. And it's like right before we're about to go live, they're like, "Hey, we have this pre-show music they want you to play." I've got my laptop sitting there running, and I've got to like load up this pre-show music onto this cart, onto its, Pro Tools. Every single time I try to launch either Pro Tools or Reaper, Dante is locking up every single time. And I'm trying not to panic. And I did figure out on the day, but apparently, I had mismanaged all of my Dante virtual sound cards licenses, and both this cart and the laptop both were running the exact same Dante virtual sound card license.
And when they saw each other.
Yeah, and they saw each other, they were like, "Oh, one of us is going to quit," and there was no predicting on which one it was going to be,
and all of these things built, troubleshot, triple redundancy, and it's a software license that's going to bite you.
Which all comes back down to attention to detail, making sure that every computer has its own unique serial number for the license, but it's just like that one momentary thing. I mean, like the clock is ticking, and they've got people, software engineers that are expecting.
And we're going live.
Yeah, the show is going to go live. There is no stopping it. It's going to happen,
That was pretty cool, though. They had a DJ spinning records against a green screen, and then they were putting him into a video game that was live. People are playing it. They drive past the guy spinning records, hearing the music, and then he's on this giant virtual stage. But then when the lights would come down on the virtual stage, they would match in the real world. So a green light in the virtual world's coming down, it hits him on the back of the head. And it was all synchronized. And like, this guy's in the game.
What game is that?
I have no idea.
Don't know.
It's something they're prototyping or something new, or we're probably not supposed to mention. I think we signed NDAs. But a DJ's in a video game, and we don't know what it's called.
Okay.
I don't look at things so much as like, what do I have directly in my pocket? I've got a certain set of things that are in my sound cart.
I have a certain set of skills.
I have a certain set of skills. Very particular
Well, what
set
kind
of
of
skills.
things do you have to say no to? I
bullshit.
imagine that at this point, like with the sound card and all the equipment that you've accumulated over the years, and the things that you're able to rent, and like what things you actually have to say no to
As
anymore.
long as they meet my rates, I kind of don't care. I'll record farm animals as long as they're paying for it and somebody else has got to clean up after them.
And yeah, pretty much as long as the rate is good, but then also there's a few producers I just will say no to every time. And it's usually because they're just awful. They expect the impossible without giving you any information. They try to quote one rate and then give you a different one. I could think of two people in particular. I don't care what the rate is. I'm not going to say yes to them.
So that's before you even do the job, or that's
I've done several jobs with these people, and I will no longer do it because they're throwing me in a position where I'm almost guaranteed to fail. And then they're going to change the rate on me, and they're going to try to say, oh, we didn't need that equipment, so we're going to take that back off here. The whole thing, it's like there's a whole, I just won't work with those particular people because they make it so hard
yeah.
on every front. And I just don't have the bandwidth for that in my life anymore.
But to more squarely answer your question, I think it almost gets into, the amount of equipment that's acquired over the years, to get to the transcendence of it. I would say that on the flip side of, like, there are some producers that I will not work with. There are some mixers that will call me, and it doesn't matter what the rate is. I'm going to go and help because it's
because it's them.
It's them.
Yeah.
Yeah. One day you'll be that person.
One day I'm working towards it.
And when you're on set, once you got the gig, you're there, you got all your equipment. Is there anything that they would ask for that you can't do?
There's always the curveball of them asking for a thing that's non-standard on the last minute. And that would be things like the phonak in-ears we were talking about. I don't bring those unless specifically asked. I have been lately, but it has come up a few times. There was one time I had to have my mom, like, okay, Mom, on the third shelf, it's a blue bag. And then she had to drive it out an hour and a half away. They did end up paying her for mileage. So she got some money, but at the same time, I don't need to, have Mom drop her swim class to come bring me in-ears. So it's that communication beforehand, and I'll ask the questions and, oh, no, we don't need that. We don't need that. And then you show up like, why isn't it here? Like,
Sure.
Dude, I talked to the production coordinator. They said no. So I had this conversation. Oh, well, we need it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
going to cost extra, and we got to go get it.
I imagine that there's times when maybe you mentioned some of the things that you're able to do, and at first they're like, no, we don't need that. And then you get there and you didn't prepare for those situations. And they're like, yeah, we remember you talking about this thing and we want to do that now. It's like,
Yeah. And those are usually the people I don't
like
work with anymore.
the 2 labs up to 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you didn't bring your backups, you wouldn't have enough. So
Yeah.
So if I'm going to be doing high wireless stuff, there's 2 carts sitting behind me. Well, the one is set up for 16 channels of wireless. The other one, it can do 12. I will rarely leave this shop with only one of them with me. I usually will have them both with me, just in the however slight it is that one of them there's a complete catastrophic failure. I'm not going to hold up the show.
Yeah.
you can swap out the entire cart.
I literally would just roll the one out of the way and move the other one in and just go.
But usually I'll bring my cart, which has 18 channels of wireless receiving on it. I don't usually bring 18 channels of transmitters. I usually don't bring that whole kit. I'll bring, 4 or 6 or 8. I won't bring all 18 because that's silly.
Yeah.
Especially to, like, we're going to mic up 2 talent. Okay. And then that becomes 4. Okay. But if they said we're going to mic up 2 talent, oh, we need to mic up 16. Okay. Well, that's going to require a second trip. And that's going to require about
another utility and probably another boom operator.
Correct. More people. And this is going to be a much bigger rental. So usually you get that out front because they want to agree to a price before you get there. So they're going to say, oh, we're only going to mic 2 people. And they know if we're going to mic 4 people, that rate goes up because that's 2 more pieces of equipment they have to rent.
Right on.
So while we have Eric here, let's just get into, since we talked about building the cart, now let's start putting some stuff in it. Starting at the power supply. I just bought the basic. It's a PSC power supply. It's got a battery in it. It's got the outputs. It's got all the stuff. $2,000 built into one and simple to use, easy. But then Eric said, that's not good enough.
Yeah, it's just the same thing with the 80/20. Like, oh, let's take this nice, easy thing and let's just make it just as convoluted and complex and fucked up as possible. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, let's go the distance.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. So during the pandemic, one of my pandemic projects was, can I take this same device, this over-the-shelf device, and can I rebuild it using all industrial automation components? And of the industrial automation components, the ones that are like the really super high end that are like rated for use in nuclear reactor buildings and life critical applications, like the power supply that you need that's like processing
hospital grade, military grade.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're on a submarine and this is the thing that's like measuring the amount of carbon dioxide in the air, and
it can't fail.
Yeah, it cannot fail. So how much is that? Oh, that's $500 for that. Okay, get me that, And I built an entire power supply of all that, and it's full redundancy.
Breakers, charge pumps, switches.
Yeah. So
power converters,
yeah.
AC to DC.
What's a charge pump?
It's just like a boost controller. So let's say you got a DC voltage coming into it that's like 12 volts, and you can want to step it up to 56 or 28 or whatever. So on this cart sitting behind Ryan, there's 2 AC to DC converters on there. The first one is taking that 120 volts and stepping it down to 12 volts DC. The one next to it is taking that same 120 volts and stepping it to 56 volts DC. So now I've got 2 different DC voltage rails. That 12 volt DC is then going into an array of Wago solid state breakers that just have this incredibly fast reaction time. They are current limiting. They're basically interrogating the amount of current passing through it thousands of times a second. So let's say I've got something that dead shorts out, like something gets wet, like a wireless transmitter, my contact gets wet and it shorts out. I don't want that taking out the entire cart, because when you've got a short,
it'll just take out that segment.
Yeah. So like that, it's like self-isolating. But the other part of that is at the end of that top rail, I've got a 240 watt power over Ethernet switch, and power over Ethernet is 56 volts. And let's say I'm on a film set and some guy rolls over it with a cart or whatever, and that thing gets shorted out. Well, I don't want that shorted out Cat 6 cable knocking out the entire cart. It's just coming back to uncompromising dependability.
And we use PoE to power devices that can be remoted away from us. So the cart will still power the device that's away over the Ethernet cable, and then also be Dante back to us for audio. So one cable will send the power and all the audio. And that way we're still on our own network and power and ground loops and all of those issues. But yeah, some guy rolls over it, cuts the cable, shorts out that, shorts out your switch. Then that's only going to take out that switch. It's not going to take out his whole cart.
Yeah. Then I've also got a really neat DC UPS made by a company in Switzerland. And, Switzerland's cool. They've got, Swiss watches and Swiss Army knife.
They do some precision work.
Even their cheese has engineered holes in it, like UPS. This thing, it speaks on a protocol called Modbus, and the computer can talk directly to it. And this thing is interrogating the battery for its health. And there's a GUI on the screen, which is actually up right now, telling me, it's got bar graphs and all this stuff. It's $440 to my door. Pfft, that's amazing. Wired in. It's the only, as far as I know, like no one's ever actually built a sound cart power supply like this. And
it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm really, really proud of it.
I considered doing that. But the problem for me is troubleshooting it on the day. I wouldn't be able to do it. I would be like, Eric, I have a boo-boo.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't decide to go with that. But I did get the same lithium battery. It's this giant car battery, lithium battery that will be in addition to the power supply I bought. So the cart should be able to be fully powered, monitors on, everything on, get 12 or 14 hours all by itself. So if we don't have AC power, we can run the whole cart off of DC, and everything's wired DC. So it's only ACN and then DC power throughout.
Yeah, like for this cart, it has no AC power dependency on it other than just recharging the batteries. That's it. Even the computer that's built into there is meant for, mobile applications. It has no moving parts. It's, made by a company called OnLogic over in Vermont. You get on their website or you call them up, you tell them like, hey, I want this i7 processor, I want 16 gigs of high temperature RAM, I want the M2
And
SATA and fanless, no moving parts.
And built for industrial situations.
Yeah,
So it's built like a tank.
Yeah.
They're really cool computers. And then about signal path, we want to make sure that, well, the great thing about DC is you don't really have the interaction like you would with AC and audio.
Yeah, so with AC, you get a 60 hertz hum that the induction can be transferred over to an analog line. This cart, again, it's all Dante and AES. There's almost no analog running. Actually, on either one of these, there's almost no analog on them whatsoever.
I still have a lot of analog on mine.
Yeah.
For now.
For now. So the AC to DC converters that I did buy, come from a company called Pulse, and it's from their Precision line, which is the kind of power supply that you would use for critical systems monitoring, where it's like you've got a device that has a heated element looking at the amount of flow of air passing through it. So the amount, that voltage that's coming across that particular element being absolutely perfectly still, no fluctuation, no ripple from the rectification, just a perfectly perfect signal. That's what I'm using on this cart, just to make it as clean as money can buy. And that's literally what I looked at on this one. It's just like,
yeah, whatever power supply they have, you're making sure before it hits any of your gear, it's clean.
Is the very best one that money can possibly, if I can get my hands on it, that's the one I'm going for. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, the crazy cart construction, the crazy power supply construction, Eric's really going the distance on getting that everything within that last few percent of ideal and reliable and clean. We've talked about this before, and a lot of our listeners either thought it was fascinating or told us to shut up. It was very divisive, but
Yeah.
The clean power thing.
The clean power thing. Remember we were talking about that with it was Ralph Skelton all those years ago with the power amps and the clean power.
Yeah, but fundamentally, this thing that I built does the exact same job of what you spent a fraction of the money on.
Yeah.
And it's ready to go.
I mean, have you guys compared? Is that something you can measure?
Yeah, he's got a whole bench over here with
oscilloscopes, mix signal generators, and
he also has. Do you have a degree in electrical engineering?
I do.
Yeah. So yeah.
So Ryan's is like a 90 out of 100.
I give it a 95. Yeah, I give it a 95.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's a very good
And
device.
again, like that whole audiophile thing, it's like you can get really good consumer grade stuff and you get really good prosumer stuff, but then to get that last few percent, it's an exponential curve straight up.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and I went down that rabbit hole. Who knows if it's gained me anything? I don't know. But it looks cool, and it's got a lot of pretty.
Cool.
It looks cool,
and it makes you feel good.
It does. There is a certain placebo effect about it,
and you get guys like me coming in going, "Whoa, what is this?"
Yeah.
I mean, and then you still get the imposter syndrome when you step onto the aircraft carrier a little bit, but
yeah. But then you remember,
I think that's
this is my ship, and I was in the Navy, and I'm going to own it.
That's going to happen to everyone, anyone. So
for sure.
But I mean, that your equipment is not going to let you down.
Yeah.
For cheaping out on any.
Yeah,
component.
It's not because it's not that I've cheaped out on any components. Like I've done something stupid, like stripping a wire and or not crimping the ferrules on the end of these things right, or a screw's gotten loose. It's something that I've done wrong. That's ultimately what it boiled down to.
Yeah, and then the rest of it's just high quality, industry standard recorders, mixers, wireless. And we don't need to get deep into that, but
I mean, my company's called Cannibal Industries, and when you are an insane person like I am, and you incorporate a business, Cannibal Industries, there's a certain standard, a level that you kind of have to hit, and that's what I was trying to go for on this one. It's just I want somebody to look at it and say, you know what, this is something truly special. This is something unique. When a producer, the first time they see the equipment that I have, it's like they've never seen anything like this before.
We're probably going to be okay here.
We're going to be okay. I know that trying to earn loyalty of television producers is idiotic, but I'm still going to try
garner
to
some favor.
Yeah, garner some favor.
If you're going to do DIY on a film set, it's got to be at this highest possible quality.
I would think so.
Well,
Yeah.
I've seen some shitty rigs. I've seen some pretty poor construction, and people notice. And I'm not that guy. I don't want to have the nicest car. I don't want to have the nicest house. I don't have that ego thing. But there is something about showing up on set with your shit together, with it tidy, with it functional, with it looking solid, looking bulletproof. That perception does go a long way. And you roll onto set with something janky looking. I don't care how good your skills are. People are going to think something different.
Yeah.
This is
No,
so
it's-
opposite of what I've been like binging in my YouTube lately, because I've been watching a lot of Tom Sachs, which is an artist, and he recreated like a NASA program out of like plywood and
Mhm.
and hot glue and stuff. It's fascinating. It's amazing to look at, but it's so opposite of what you're doing. But it's a great, very interesting juxtaposition in my brain right now. Thank you so much for joining us for this.
It's an honor. Thank you for even considering me for this. You know, I know you guys have been doing this for a long time, so this is a very special treat for me.
I
So
knew it would be technical heavy, but so worth it. And I enjoy all of this and being here and doing this. And we'll get some good B-roll to share on the show too. But this dude's a monster.
Looks like a great
Absolute
shop,
monster.
a lot of fun to be in.
yeah.
And,
We have a sign above the door that says extreme danger. Not only will this kill you, it'll hurt the whole time you're dying. You know, there's stuff here that can definitely fuck you up if you're not being careful. You know, like a CNC machine or a lathe. You know, these things, they have no conscience. They don't know. You know, your shirt gets pulled into the lathe. I have the structural integrity of gelatin to this thing. It's just going to pull you through and you know, you're done.
Now you have to, you certainly have to respect all
Yeah.
of this. And there's a lot of electricity. There's a lot of heavy duty machinery.
Have you spent enough time here yet that you've gotten metal splinters yet?
Oh yeah.
You gotten some?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Aluminum
I think
or
I'm
steel?
magnetic. I think I got the aluminum last
Okay,
time.
yeah.
nice. Collect the whole set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like these little slivers and stuff. I've had so many of them that they keep a coffee cup for me over at the Santa Clarita Urgent Care. Yeah, I'm
You
gonna stick my finger.
need the
Yeah.
aluminum splinters, the titanium splinters,
Yeah.
stainless steel, I guess.
Well, the aluminum and the titanium aren't bad because aluminum's it's aluminum oxide layer, and by and large, it's on the surface it's an inert metal. Grade 5 titanium is like it's heavily used in prosthetics and hip joints and bone and all that stuff because
It's fine to be in there.
No, exactly.
Yeah, you're better now.
Oh yeah, steel on the other hand. Oh man, it's awful. Go over to the urgent care. You got to put your finger down in the forbidden soy sauce. And then going and digging at you to get the thing out of there. Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. And on that note,
yeah. Thank you all for watching and listening. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thanks again to Eric for joining us for this call. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
catch you next time.
All right. Take care.